Hey everyone, my name is Tanya and welcome to my channel, Deported to Paradise. So this is my very first YouTube video, so please bear with me. I normally do TikToks, but I wanted to make this channel because I was deported to Mexico 2.5 years ago after being in the US for over 40 years. So I get a lot of questions, about everything, about work, about, you know, renting, buying, just everything you could think of. People ask me. So I thought if I made this channel, I could maybe reach more people and people could ask me and I can go more into depth. Plus, whatever's going on with TikTok, I don't know. So, anyways, they are doing work next door. So I apologize if you hear drilling or anything like that. So, okay, so I went to the United States when I was little. Okay, and I went as a legal permanent resident. Okay, so, when I was, everything was good, and people asked me, well, why did you not get your citizenship, along the way? And I was like, well, honestly, nobody ever grows up to think they're going to be a junkie. And I just thought the permanent resident was going to be enough. I mean, it's in the title, permanent, so I just didn't think that it would be an issue. Obviously, I was wrong. So in my 20s is when I started getting uh, addicted to some substances, um, and we'll call them H and C. How about that? So, yeah, so I got addicted to those, and I was doing different. At first, it was just petty crimes, just trying to feed my habit, and then the petty crimes became not petty crimes, and that's when I really got in a lot of trouble. So I would be in and out of jail all the time, because I was just stealing here and there and stuff. And but then when I really messed up, I was looking at 5 to 7 years in federal prison. So that freaked me out. I was scared. So I knew I had to do something, because I was just going downhill really fast. But so I went, at that point, I went to court, and I saw a judge, and the judge actually let me go home on house arrest only because I think it was right at the beginning of COVID. So COVID was started in March of 2020, and I was actually in jail at the end of March. So end of March and beginning of April. So my clean date is April 6th. So because I don't count my when I was in jail. But anyways, especially since there's so much stuff floating around at Blue Starrett, I'm not even joking. So anyways, um, so I thank God and I thank that judge that he let me go home on house arrest, because I know I would not be where I'm at today if I hadn't, if he hadn't let me go home on house arrest. I was on house arrest for 2.5 years. And, when I first got there to my mom's, they let me go home to their house as well, my parents. And I thank them as well. And I had a quarantine, so I was going through withdrawals, and I had to just stay in one room, like one side of the house, so my room and then the bathroom. That was it, for 14 days or whatever. So I was sick, and I wanted to use, I wanted to get high, I wanted the sickness to stop. So I really thought about it hard, and I was like, if I leave this, if I stay this. So I just knew that if I left and used again, I wouldn't be coming back, because I was tired of putting my family through all that pain. So I finally just decided I'm going to do this. I can do this, So once I decided that, I started doing online meetings. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. I What else? Oh, I was started volunteering for meetings online, running them or whatever, setting them up. Um, I got a job, a work from home job. I what else did I do? Oh, and I went to back to school and got my associate's degree. So I was just doing all kinds of stuff, and mainly it was just to keep my mind busy, but it was great. Like I always had something to do, and it was just a good time in my life. I felt like I had really just woken up, and I just started living, because at that time I also left my ex husband. So he was part of my problem. So it was all just new and getting to know my family and them getting to know me again. It was just awesome, especially since we're all together in the house, well, me and my sisters and my mom and dad. So, so I went to court. So, I was on house arrest for 2.5 years, and my lawyer for sure thought I was going to get probation because of everything I'd been doing. Well, when I got my associates on May 2022, I think. And a week later, I got sentenced. I think it was May 18th that I got sentenced. And he sentenced me to 11 months in federal prison, which I did want to say this as well. I don't blame anybody but myself for being here. I mean, I could say this and that and the other, but I was the one using, I was the one stealing, I was the one that did all the stuff. So I know I put myself here, but it doesn't make it less traumatic or less sad or less heartbreaking. So yeah, but at that time, it didn't even cross our minds that anything was going to happen with ICE, because my lawyer was able to change the crime to a non-violent crime, I think it was. So she was like, "It's going to be good. You should be fine." And I don't really want to talk about the crime, but I will at some point probably. I'm just not ready to do that yet. But so I, I went home. Had 2 months to turn myself in, and because my dad was having surgeries and stuff for the 2 months, and I was turning myself in on July 18th. So that last weekend in July, before July 18th, me, my mom, my little sister, and my aunt drove up to Alabama because I was going to Aliceville, Alabama, and I turned myself in. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. On our way, when we were getting closer and closer, I just remember, trying to act so calm and so normal, but inside my head was like just a total chaotic mess. I was like, it was awful, but I just didn't want my mom and my aunt and sister to worry, because I mean, I knew I was going to be okay. But it's easier to be on the inside and knowing you're doing okay than being on the outside and not really knowing what prison's like. I mean, let's face it, everything people hear about prison, my family is probably kind of scared, So, so I got there, and like anything else, I got used to it. I got a job, was a teacher assistant for the GED program. Um, what else? I would work out. I would just take any classes that I needed that they offered. I was also on a Suboxone program, and just whatever they offered, I would take, you know. So, and I did also read a lot, and I slept a lot. So, but so in February of 2023, my counselor calls me and says, or calls me in her office and says, you're getting your halfway house. You're gonna get to go home or go home early. And we were just so excited. I was like, oh my gosh. So I called my mom, I called my best friend, everybody. I called everybody, and I was like, I'm going home, da da da. So we made all these plans, right? And then 2 weeks later, I called my mom, and she goes, "Don't freak out." And when Somebody tells you don't freak out. What's the first thing you do? You freak out. So she said, I spoke to your probation officer, and he said that you have an INS hold. And I was like, oh my gosh, I already knew what that meant. I knew that it was going to be a a fight. Now we have another battle. I didn't want, after finding that out, I didn't want to leave prison. Like, I did not want, you have to start over at whether you get changed to a new prison or to new, that. I mean, and it's just not something people like to do. So I had my friends there. I had my routine, but I didn't have a choice. I had to go. So maybe about a month and a half after that, me and there was probably 20 of us women got driven to Louisiana, the Geo, what is it called? Geo uh, Detention Center. I think Geo is the company or the I don't know, but it's called Geo. So we drove there, and I don't even remember how long it took. Honestly, a lot of that I just block out. But we got there, and it was just horrible, horrible. Like, when we first got there, because they have you wear red, orange, and green, I think, jumpsuits. So the red is if came from prison like me, and all the other people were scared of the red. So which is just ridiculous. But at first they didn't know, what we were. We got there really late at like 2 o'clock in the morning, so we just changed and went, in this just a big old room, probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 bunk beds. Um, just two bunk beds, like, you know, there wasn't like three. But, but it was so awful. It was just, you see all these women that are, having to um, go back to where they came from, or it's just sad. It's just awful, and it's sad, and it's traumatizing. I mean, it feels bad to know that all these women are going through something like I was. Well, but if they had just gotten there, they were getting let go on a ankle monitor, but I didn't qualify for that. Neither did any of the women that went there with me. So at that point, and I didn't know that, when you're fighting your case, like when you go to ICE detention, I didn't know. I thought it was like a prison. Like, if you can't afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you. No, if you can't afford one, you just don't get one. So I was just grateful that my parents were able to hire a lawyer to represent me, which was already like $10,000, $15,000. I don't even remember how much it was. I didn't even want them paying that because I really and truly didn't think I was going to win. So I was like, I, yeah, I just would rather them save that money versus, paying that. But my mom was like, I would never be able to forgive myself if we didn't at least try. So, um, we gathered all our information, our letters, had my sponsor there. I mean, just everybody was on video. And what I also thought was weird was that I was in Louisiana. I'm from Texas. My lawyer said they should have taken you back to a Texas immigration detention center, but no, they took me to Louisiana, and a judge in Puerto Rico is the one that sentenced or deported me. So it just it's just crazy because, like, I'm from Texas. I went to prison in Alabama, and then I went to immigration and in Louisiana, and then I got sentenced or deported by a judge in Puerto Rico. So it doesn't make sense to me. But when he finally, he was like, "No, you're gonna get deported." I thought I was going to die. Like, I started getting really hot, and seeing like flashes. Like I thought I was going to throw up and faint at the same time. I just thought my life is over. I might as well just climb to the very top of that building and jump off because I don't want to I don't want to be here anymore if I'm not going to be with my friends and family. I never lived in Mexico, so it had been even like 20 years since I even visited. So it was just hard for me to imagine a life in Mexico, especially I'm 47 now. This was, I was 44-ish or whatever. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to find a job. I didn't know any of it, because a lot of people are ageist here. So if you're not, a young buck, then it's hard for you to find a job. So, but I I got here. Well, first, let me finish that. So, I was in the detention center about maybe a month or two after I got, I signed my deportation and all that stuff. And then they took two of us, two women. I don't remember who the other one was, but we were supposed to leave um, on the plane, from the plane, at 9 a.m. in the morning, which that's what my mom was told, and that's what I told her. Um, we didn't leave till 5 p.m. So this is the whole time sitting in the ICE agent's truck, um, not able to call my mom, my friends, nobody to let them know, what's going on. So I know my mom was worried, but finally at 5 p.m., I was, we got scooted on the plane, which they shackle you, put handcuffs, shackle your feet, your waist, and I mean it's ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, I guess, at that point, what am I gonna do? Like run? I mean, yeah, no. So it's just a lot. I feel like that they do right there in the end. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my feelings. But so we got on the plane, and it was mostly men. It was all men, and me and one other woman, and they flew us to a border town right before the border, and we stopped at the airport, whatever airport was there, and then they put us on this like little, like a golf cart looking thing, but it was bigger. And they drove us right at the border. Then they gave us all of our property. If you came from prison, you had stuff, or if you collected stuff in immigration, or whatever, you got it all. And I had like 3 bags, right? And I just remember the bags were heavy, okay? They were like the knapsack, is that what it's called? The like potato sacks kind of. And one of them was really heavy, and then I had two more. So I'm just dragging it. And right behind me is the ICE agent walking behind us the whole way until we get across the bridge. So it was just so, like I said, degrading and traumatic, and I'm just glad I don't have to ever do that again. But so when we got to the other side, we found the Mexican consulate, which was nice because they treated us good. So they gave us water, chips, just, they let me call my mom. So they had to process everybody that was there. They offer you a ride. They give rides to like 5 different big cities. And mine, that's where I was going. I was going to Monterrey first. So, so I was gonna wait, and like I said, it's mostly men. It was like a Greyhound bus, but much, much nicer and bigger too. And there was 3 of us women in the front, and then the whole rest of it, like 50 guys, 50 men. So finally, we got out of there probably midnight, 1-ish, and then it took us like 2 or 3 hours. I probably didn't get to Monterrey and see my mom and my aunt and uncle till about 3 o'clock in the morning. But it was just so, when I finally got there, it was so good to see my mom. I wasn't feeling that well. I had a UTI, a bladder infection. So as soon as I took one of the Azos, I just threw it up. So I wasn't feeling good, but I was just so happy to see my mom and my aunt and uncle. So at that point, we stopped at Monterrey because I needed to get my birth certificate. I needed to get my CUR. There was a certain number of things that I needed to get for getting a job. So, but I had already decided I want to go live in Puerto Vallarta. I don't like cold. Cold in Mexico is no, I don't want it. So, I knew it was going to be more expensive here, but I was okay with it. So I, you know, got all that stuff, and then the next day we got on a bus and we went to Puerto Vallarta. So once we got there, I was able to get a job. I got an apartment, and I will get a lot more into detail on that, probably on the next one and on the next video. So that's just kind of a quick recap, kind of my story, my deportation story. I don't know if there's anything that you guys want me to go more in detail about, but I will also eventually tell y'all some of the horror stories that I witnessed while I was in detention center. But I know they're not going to compare to anything that's going on now. Like, I can't even imagine. I tell this to my friends all the time. I couldn't imagine being there now. As bad as it was when I was there, I don't know how awful it would be now, because it was already awful. But now it's going to be times 10. So I feel really, really terrible for the people that are having to be there now. And, most of them are not criminals. And, I am. So, I mean, not that I deserve it either, but they really don't deserve it. So, but, everyone makes mistakes. So, but I'm going to be making a video once or twice a week, I think. If you could please share, subscribe if you want to, go follow me on my journey, comment, and what else? Share, comment, subscribe, and like. So tell your friends, send this to somebody you think might need it, but yeah, watch the video the whole way through, even if you're not listening. It really helps with the algorithm. So, anyways, thank you so, so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. And thank you for coming to my channel, Deported to Paradise. Thank you.